Although we have knights coming down from the sky, we have a new hero arriving from a different timeline.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another set review for the Nextage extra booster set. Last time we looked at the cards for Royal Paladin, and in this video we're gonna take a look at my favorite clan, Gear Chronicle. And subsequently, they also have the most cards within this set combined with the cards from the trial deck. However, this video is gonna be a lot shorter than the previous one with Royal Paladin, not because there isn't a lot to talk about, but because most of the cards aren't really that good and we can just skip through a lot of these cards very fast. So with that said, let's jump right into the cards, because you know the drill. It's gonna be the same thing like the previous video and like most other set review videos. So we have the card for the Nextage extra booster set as well as the Chronojet trial deck. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into the reprints, vanilla cards, as well as triggers. And we start off with these reprint triggers, as we have two critical reprints, Stealth Bomber De Gaulle as well as Ring Worker, and both of these are obviously going to be a 1-star, so just generic reprint cards. Then from these trigger reprints we go to another very special reprint trigger, as we have the Draw PG Steam Guard Castilla. That is a new reprint. And just like the previous one for Royal Paladin, it's gonna be a 3-star reprint, as it's only one copy per trial deck, unless you buy all 3 trial decks, and that means you get another copy in a promo pack, which is pretty nice, but not the best way to get access to a full playset of these draw PGs. Then with those reprinted triggers out of the way, we got 2 new type of triggers, as we have a new draw trigger in the likes of Lucky Pot Dragon Kit, which is gonna be a 3-star rating for me, as it's a brand new trigger that we can incorporate within our trigger lineup, as this means we have 3 different draw triggers, so we could potentially make a 12 draw trigger lineup. And with that new draw trigger, we also have a new heal trigger in the likes of Steam Maiden Uluru. And although she is best girl and she's definitely gonna replace the previous heal trigger in all Gear Chronicle decks, or at least for the actual Gear Chronicle players that know their culture, this is yet again sadly gonna be a 1-star, as it's just a generic reprint, because we cannot combine this heal trigger with the older heal trigger, as there's a limit of 4 heal triggers per deck. So sadly, Uluru, you came a little bit late, otherwise you probably would have got a 3-star rating. Then with Uluru out of the way, we've got yet again a new trigger. Just like Royal Paladin, we've got access to the new Sentinel critical trigger that is Hard Thump Worker. And this is also going to be a 5-star rating for me, as it not only gives us the 4th critical trigger, so we could potentially run a 16 crit lineup, but it also allows Gear Chronicle to experiment with different Sentinel trigger lineups, or just different Sentinel lineup, so we have more deck building options to our disposal. Then of course, with Uluru and Chronojet Dragon, we need the new starter in the likes of Chronodran. Again, he is best boy for Gear Chronicle, but I sadly have to give it a 1-star rating, because it's basically a palette swap for every other starter that we got, but it's definitely gonna be the go-to starter for every Gear Chronicle deck out there. Then another reprint that we got is the Grade 1 PG, which is Team Janitor Gitlim, and it's again gonna be a 1-star, it's just a generic reprint. We already got plenty of access to this PG, and we probably didn't need this reprint in the first place. Then from those reprints and trigger cards, we go into the 2 new vanilla cards for Gear Chronicle, and one of those new vanilla cards is this Grade 1 with the double crit variant, and this is Steam Digger Hablum. And even though it's very interesting, and Gear Chronicles can stack up a lot of force markers on top of one circle, so we can actually put some pressure with this Grade 1, it's not the best one of cards, and also because we have an awkward grade lineup, there's probably not a lot of room to actually play this Grade 1 and get a lot of use out of it, and riding this thing is definitely not something you want to do on a day-to-day basis. So for me, it's sadly going to be a 1-star rating. And from one 1-star card, we go to another 1-star card, as we've got this 10k vanilla Steam Fighter Sol Rap. And the reason why it's a 1-star is basically because we already got a 10k vanilla card. So this is basically a pseudo reprint card, and it's probably not going to be used. So a 1-star for me. Then from those reprints and vanilla cards, we go into the generic support, which is a lot, by the way. So we have a lot of ground to cover, but this is going to be very fast, because the generic support cards aren't really that great. As the first card we've got is this Grade 1 Gears Repeater, and its skill is auto Vanguard the Circle. When placed from hand, costs soul +1, and this unit gets power +5k until the end of turn. Yeah, I don't know what the idea behind this card is, like soul blasting for 5k power, and why did it need to be placed from hand? It's really weird. It's going to be a 1-star, probably never actually going to be played because the value behind this card is very minimalistic. Then another grade 1, which is Bearing Rover, which definitely got the better artwork treatment, as this is a grade 1 version of Chronojet, and its skills is very similar to an older card, as its skills are Auto and Vanguard Circle. When its attack hits, discard a card from your hand and draw a card. And its other skills continues from hand. When this card would be discarded, it may be discarded as a grade 3. This is basically a discard version of Wedge Move Dragon Kid, because they have exactly the same skills, only Wedge Move is that it binds a card from hand and this discard the card from hand. So this is more in line with discard synergy of Chrono Tiger and Chrono Fang, which is really weird because this card looks like a Chronojet, and yeah, honestly this card isn't really all that needed for the Chronojet engine, but at the same time, it gives Chrono Fang access to a Wedge Move Dragon Kit for their engine, and it's also ups the consistency of just be able to Superior Ride because it can be discarded for a grade 3. So for that I would give it 3 stars. But in the Chronojet Dragon build itself, probably wouldn't be run because we don't actually need to run this type of card, which you will see at the end of the video. Then from those grade 1s we go to a very questionable grade 2, which I don't understand why we actually got this in the first place, as we've got this 9k grade 2 Steam Performer Lagap. And its ability is Auto Vanguard Circle. When its attack hits a Vanguard, stand this unit, and this unit cannot attack a Vanguard until the end of turn. Why is this Pseudo Aqua Force card in Gear Chronicle? You might ask. Well, I honestly don't know. I tried figuring out where this thing fit in or where it was useful for, but there's actually no use to this card, so it's going to be a 1-star. The only thing that you could maybe use for it is attack while boosting into your opponent's Vanguard and send it and attack into the rearguard, but that's really bad. Then from that grade 2 we go to another grade 2, which is Steam Fencer Idina, and her ability is Auto Rearguard Circle. When it's attacked while boosted, this unit gets power +5k until the end of turn. So this can basically become a 15k attacker, but while boosted it becomes a 23k column. It's an okay number. It's a bit outdated nowadays because you rather want to do something more than just gaining 5k power, but it's a trial deck card, so sure, 2 stars. Not great, but it's also not outright useless like the previous grade 2 that we just talked about. Then we've got another very interesting grade 3, which is Scowling Gear Bear. And its ability is Auto Vanguard and Rearguard Circle. When your opponent's Sentinel is placed on the Guardian Circle from hand, choose one of your opponent's rearguards that is not being attacked, retire it, and this unit gets power +5k until the end of turn. So this is interesting to some degree, as when you can force your opponent to perfect guard on your Vanguard attack, because you don't want to have this on your Vanguard Circle, as it's, for one, isn't a pseudo superior rider, and for 2, it doesn't have a force marker, so this is definitely a rearguard unit. But if you can force your opponent to perfect guard your Vanguard attack, you get some value out of this, as you get a free retire and this column gets a 5k. Interesting enough, this does synergize quite nicely with Chrono Rebellion, as they most likely are gonna guard your Vanguard swing because of the reduction of shield value and the 4 to 5, maybe 6 drive checks that's on your Vanguard. So they definitely gonna perfect guard your Vanguard, meaning you get the free retire and you get the 5k. And it seems Rebellion already removes the front row. That means you can actually destroy their back row as well. So it could have some uses, but it's quite niche, so I will give it 2 stars because, yet again, it's a grade 3, and the grade 3 spots in Gear Chronicle are quite limited and expensive to fill up. Then from that grade 3, we go to another trial deck grade 3, as with Steam Gunner Yarlaganda, and its ability is Auto Vanguard Rearguard Circle. When it attacks, costs counter +1, draw a card, and this unit gets power +5k until the end of turn. It's very basic value. You get a draw for a countless, which is fine. It gets another 5k, so it's even extra value on top of that. But yet again, it's a grade 3. These grade 3 slots are very important for Gear Chronicle because we also have the grade 4. So for that, I will only give it 2 stars, as it might be okay for a supporting card in a budget builds for Gear Chronicle and other decks, but because Gear Chronicle now also has budget options to Superior Rat into grade 4, this is probably outdated by now and won't even see the light of day for a budget player for Gear Chronicle. And speaking on the term of budget players that can Superior Ride, we have this grade 3, Steam Maiden and Gilsa, which has the following ability: act on Vanguard Circle once per turn, cost, discard a card from your hand, search your deck for up to one grade 4 card, right at the stand, shuffle your deck. At the end of the turn, retire that unit and write a grade 2 or less card from your soul or drop zone as rest. So this is basically a budget version of the Superior Right effect. However, this is a little bit different, as you just need to discard a card from your hand to get the full skill off, and you write back into a grade 2 either from your soul or drop zone. So if you pick your drop zone, you actually can stack up your soul, which is quite nice if you use a lot of soul for different skills, and you could potentially get more value if we get good grade 2s with unwrite effect, end of turn effects, or beginning of main phase, or beginning of right phase, like we've seen with Chrono by Tiger. Then this card becomes all the much better. Currently, we don't have a lot of targets because Chrono by Tiger is the only solid target for this card to go into, but at the same time, this card has some counter playability to it, as some cards and the big Vanguard unit that we have that's coming out right now sometimes look at your opponent's Vanguard and ask it to be grade 3 to get their full potential. This card can deny that full potential as you go back to a grade 2. How much it's worth it depends, but it's an interesting take and could actually be very useful in the late game, or maybe with some future sets if we get some good support for this particular grade 3. So with the application for budget build options and as well as some future potential, I think it's a solid 3-star card, as it opens up interesting lines of plays that wasn't really explored in Gear Chronicle as of yet. Then from those grade 3 we go into 2 different grade 4s that are good budget options but also have some interesting applications to it. And the first one is this grade 4 Interdimensional Beast Metallica Phoenix. And interesting enough, this card has a skill continuous. You cannot normal write this card. All the other grade 4s you can write from your hand. This one you can't. And the trade-off for this is that this card naturally has a triple drive. So for anybody that's familiar with the Gira, this is basically the actual same value that you get from just striding. Because when you striden in a Gira, you discard a card, but you get that card back in the form of a triple drive. So 1 extra drive check, so you don't minus yourself by doing this. This whole superior grade 4 ride is a minus because you discard in those grade 4s nowadays only have twin drive. You do get the filter from your deck as you write them from your deck, which is nice, but you did still minus yourself for 1 card. This Metallica Phoenix doesn't minus you as you get a triple drive, which is really nice and has some premium applications if you want to go the route and go first and want to generate more force markers to have a very killing play the next turn when you can actually stride. So it's an interesting card. It opens options. It's also a good one-off in whatever build if you need another target or just a vanilla target that comes in with pressure, as a triple drive is also good free pressure. So for that, I think it's a solid 3-star card. Then another grade 4 that we've got is this grade 4 Interdimensional Beast Isolate Lion, and its abilities are Auto Vanguard Circle. When placed, look at the top card of your deck and call to the rearguard circle. So that's a free +1. However, it can call triggers, which isn't the best, but you can still get some value out of those triggers thanks to its other ability, which is Act on Vanguard Circle. Once per turn, cost retire a rearguard, search your deck for up to 1 grade 3 card, call to the rearguard circle, shuffle your deck, and that unit gets power plus 5k until the end of turn. Okay, so not only does this card give you a free plus, if that free plus is pretty good, that's really nice. You get a solid attacker or maybe a good booster out of it. But if that plus is bad, you can turn that bad plus into an actual grade 3, which becomes even more powerful, and we've actually got some really good solid targets for this thing to hit. Of course, we have Chronojet Dragon, which has a rearguard Sentinel restrict ability that also gets itself a free 5k power, so that thing swings 23 on its own, which is pretty solid. But we also have the Chronojet Dragon Searcher, which is also on place on rearguard circle, so we can place that via this skill, then check top 7, maybe get a Chronojet Dragon. If we do, that's another plus for free that we get, and if we don't, that thing also becomes into a 23k attacker, but we also have the extra 5k of this unit, so that's actually a 28k attacker we get for free, which is actually pretty good. So this is overall a pretty nice budget option, gives more flexibility to whatever playstyle you have. So for that, I think it's a solid 3-star card and might actually be a good tech option for some actual competitive builds if we get some more solid grade 3 rearguard units that we have room to actually play in our build. Now another really solid general support card is this grade 1 Steam Breath Dragon, and this is of course the new generic grade 3 Searcher, and its skills are really good because its first skill is continuous Vanguard to rearguard circle. During your turn, if a card was discarded discarded from your hand this turn, this unit gets power plus 5k. So within the Gear Chronicle archetype, that's every single turn because you're going to superior ride into a grade 4, so that's actually pretty solid. But we also have the second ability, which Auto Vanguard Record Circle. When placed from your hand, look at the 5 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 grade 3 card from among them, put them into your hand, shuffle your deck, and if you put a card, discard a card from your hand. So just a generic top 5 search. What's really good about this card is that it fulfills its own condition for the 5k power. If you hit a grade 3, you will discard a card. So even on turn 1, this thing becomes into a 13k attacker. But what's also nice is that the following turn, if you actually are playing Gear Chronicle on its full capacity, you probably will have a Steam Scour Air Cup ready on turn 2. That card discards you a card, making this card again get the additional 5k power. So it's for Gear Chronicle very easy to get this thing the additional power from turn 1 all the way up till the final turn of the game, which is actually pretty good. So for that, it's a definitely 5-star card, as not only you will have a solid attacker, it increases the consistency, but it increases the consistency to a very high degree, and also the important searcher, because grade 3s are quite scarce in Gear Chronicle, so the more consistency we have to get into our grade 3s, then it's all the better. Then from those cards, we go to an interesting trio of cards, which are very interesting on paper, but lack the support to make them actually competitive viable, and hopefully in the future we get that support, as we have the Steam Maiden Melem trio. And we kick it off with Steam Maiden Melem herself, as she has the following skill. On a Record Circle, when it attacks, cost counter +1, look at the 7 cards from the top of your deck, call to 1 Upclutch Dragon or Upstream Dragon from among them to the Record Circle as rest. Shuffle your deck. And if you have Upclutch Dragon and Upstream Dragon on your Vanguard Circle or Rearguard Circle, stand the called unit. So before we're gonna rate this card, we're gonna go into the other 2 cards, as they basically have the exact same skill. As the grade 2 version is Upstream Dragon, and its skills on a Rearguard Circle. When it attacks, cost counter +1, look at the 7 cards from the top of your deck, call to 1 Upclutch Dragon or Steam Maiden Melem from among them to the Rearguard Circle as rest, shuffle your deck, and if you have an Upclutch Dragon and Steam Maiden Melem on Vanguard Circle or Rearguard Circle, stand the called unit. And then the grade 3 version is Upclutch Dragon, which has the skill auto on Vanguard Circle and Rearguard Circle. When it attacks, costs counter +1, look at the 7 cards from the top of your deck, call up to 1 Upstream Dragon or Steam Maiden Melem from among them to the Rearguard Circle as rest, shuffle your deck, and if Upstream Dragon and Steam Maiden Melem are on the Vanguard Circle or Rearguard Circle, stand the called unit. So these are basically a plus engine and a multi-attack engine, as when you have all 3 units into the field, you can stand the superior called unit, which is actually pretty nice, as Forest clans don't tend to have the most capable multi-attacking, although that's changing slowly every single set that we're getting from Bushiroad. But this is an interesting engine nonetheless, and it has some potential, but the problem is that you need to run all 3 copies. It's a grade 3, a grade 2, and a grade 1. The grade 2 and the grade 1 aren't the issue. The grade 3, however, is. Because you need to have this thing on the Vanguard Circle to actually make the multi-attack possible without a lot of problems. If you cannot have this thing on the Vanguard Circle, it becomes a lot of issue. So meaning this engine is really hard to splash into a competitive deck that relies on Chronojet with Chrono Dragon or Chrono Thing with Rebellion. So it isn't really that good. And for that, I can only give these cards 2 stars. But with it said, there is a potential for this engine to become really good if there's a way to actually make units that are called in rest automatically stand, or have another card sacrificing self to just stand superior called unit. If that's possible, then we can ditch the grade 3 and just rely on a grade 2 and a grade 1 on Upstream and Melem, and just do it with only those 2, as they can superior call each other for as much counterblast that you have. And if you have other cards that can restand those units, then you can actually get some value out of those multi-attack. But currently, that's not the case. So there's not much things that we can do here. Now with those 3 out of the way, let's go into some binding support, as we got 2 new cards that help the binding engine. However, don't expect too much, because these cards aren't that great, as we have this grade 2 Steam Engineer Inta, and its skill is on a Rearguard Circle. When its attack hits, cast bind this unit, draw a card, and bind a card from your hand. So this is a direct minus on a unhit effect. Yeah, that's not good. This is directly a 1-star card for me, because not only needs this thing to hit, which your opponent can easily guard, this is just a 10k unit, and with an 8k booster, that's 18k, so not really that much of a pressure. But not only that, it binds itself from the field, so that's a minus. Then you draw and bind the card. So a somewhat cycle on a minus. Sure, You can bind a grade 3 or a grade 4 from your hand to accelerate your bind zone, but minusing yourself is probably not the thing that you want to do. And also you don't have the consistency of actually getting the skill because it's behind an on-hit effect, so not that great. And as seen as your grade 2 spots are already filled with some powerful cards like Naboo in your cup, there's probably not a good reason to actually run this card. Now we also got a grade 1 bind support card in the likes of Steam Performer Irbranum. And Irbranum has the ability on a Rigid Circle, when your Vanguard is attacked, cast bind a card from your hand, move this unit to the Guardian Circle, and this unit gets shield plus 5k until the end of that battle. So basically, this becomes a 15k shield for a minus. Is this good? Well, it depends. If you can bind a grade 3, then you can say that grade 3 substitutes for 15k shield, but you also lose this unit from the board, so you actually lose 2 cards for defending your Vanguard for a single attack. Sure, you get 1 card in your bind zone, but it's not the greatest of value. Granted, it's a little bit more value than the grade 2, and it's also more consistent. The only problem is this thing is on the board, so it's vulnerable against control, but not every clan has some control options. So for that, I will give it 2 stars, but it's not a good card, which you honestly will not run in an actual bind deck that is trying to be as consistent as possible. Then from the bind support cards, we go to a bunch of discard support cards, which are interesting, as we have this grade 1 Steam Cook Shasu, and her abilities on a Rigid Circle, when it attacks, discard a card from your hand, and this unit gets power plus 10k until the end of turn. This is gonna be a 1 star for me. The reason why this is a 1 star is because discarding for 10k power is not that great. Most other cards that are viable for the Chrono Tiger or Chrono Fang build discard and then allow you to draw those cards back in the late game, or at least give you a lot of pressure behind that discard, like crits or a lot of power. 10k power, not that great. But even if this was just a 10k power, then it wasn't the biggest problem. The biggest issue about this card is the fact that it needs to attack. If this unit could use her skill also on boost, then this thing was insane. Because then you could have an 18k booster behind your Chrono Tiger Rebellion, and because you on a boost could discard a card, helps you fulfill the potential condition of Chrono Fang Rebellion on the attack itself. So there's actually some application to this card. But sadly, because this grade 1 needs to be in the front row and needs to be the one that attacks, makes this card basically unplayable in my opinion, and that gives her the 1 star rating. Then from one grade 1 we go to another grade 1 as we have Steam Writer Lubaba, and Lubaba's ability is on a Rigid Circle, when it boosts, if your Vanguard is grade 4, draw a card and discard a card from your hand. So on boost, cycle by discard. That's okay, it's 2 stars for me, it's a cycle, it's for free, it's fine, but the biggest problem here is that it's very late game cycle because you need to be on grade 4, and in Gear Chronicle you want to cycle as early as possible because your consistency of riding up is not all that great. So having this cycle only active the moment you are already on grade 4, so you are already on your late game plans, or you already are performing your game plan, then what's the point of a cycle at this current stage? Then from those grade 1s we go to a grade 2, which is honestly a very interesting and potential powerful card, as we have Stroboscope Dragon. This grade 2 has the following skill: on a Vanguard Rigid Circle, at the end of the battle it attacked, cost Soulless 1 and discard a card from your hand. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, and if your Vanguard is grade 4, draw a card. The reason why I think this is a solid card is that this card allows you to cycle and also retire one of your opponent's rearguards for the cost of a Soul Blast. That Soul Blast is pretty important here, as we can combine this in the Chrono Fang build, because we can just use all the counter assault that we want and then rely on the soul for something like this. And on the grade 4 turn, you're already gonna retire the front row units, then this card allows you to destroy their back row as well, so it can be a really good way to just disrupt your opponent's field. This thing can also be just used in any Gear Chronicle deck to have some spot removal. The only problem with this card in particular in the early game is that you're discarding to retire something, so you both go 1 for 1, but you also need to pay the Soul Blast, so that's not the best kinds of trades. You actually want to have that draw as well. The only issue is with the Chronojet side of things is that when this thing needs to attack while you're sitting on grade 4, that's a big issue, because if you attack first with the Vanguard, with Chrono Dragon Nextage, you go back to a grade 3. So that means you always need to attack with this thing first, which might not be the ideal thing to do, but that's what you're forced to if you want to run this in a Chronojet Chrono Dragon build. So I think this is more of a support card for Chrono Fang, but in the overall scheme of things, I think it's a solid 4-star card because it gives you cycle, but also spot removal, and spot removal in a Force Clan is, in my opinion, always pretty useful because you can get rid of their back row if you need to, and within Chrono Fang you can actually destroy their entire fields without actually a problem, and you can do that turn after turn, which is not bad at all in my honest opinion. Now from one discard grade 2 we go to another discard grade 2 as we have Steam Breaker Narmina, and her skills on a regular circle, when it attacks, cost discard one or more cards with the sum of their grade being 3 or greater from your hand. And this unit gets power plus 5k until the end of turn. So this can potentially be a 25k attacker. This is a bit more value than we've got with the Steam Cook, because this is plus 15 instead of plus 8, and it being a grade 2 is more logical for it to be the attacking unit. But you're not always going to discard one card because you need to discard a sum of grade 3 or higher. So that's not ideal. But as we're going to see with some support cards later in this video, you can fulfill this condition by just discarding one card, as you can just hard fulfill this condition very easily. Of course, we have Baron Rover and Wedge Move Dragon Kid, but we're not talking about those type of skills. So in general sense, I'm gonna give it 2 stars. It's a little bit better than the grade 1 because you get more value and there's more reason for this actually be the one to attack. And with some support cards, you can actually get some value behind this discard effect and making it easier to fulfill her discard condition in general. Now we get to some support cards that interact when you're discarding cards, as we have this grade 2 Steam Blader Dudu, and her ability is continuous regular circle. During your turn, if a card was discarded from your hand this turn, all of your units in the same column as this unit get power plus 5k. So she basically becomes a 20k attacker if you have a booster behind her, because a booster will also get an increase of 5k, which is pretty nice. And being able to discard something, that's very easy to do in Gear Chronicle, as it's in the main ability or the main mechanic of the clan. And another interesting thing this card allows you to do is put her in the back row in front of a circle where you know multiple units will be placed in a single turn if you can multi-attack with, for example, the Steam Maiden Milan trio, or with Chronojet Dragon and Chrono Dragon Nextage if you place this thing behind the Vanguard circle. Not the most ideal thing to do, but it's a possibility to think about. So in general, I think this is an okay 2-star card. It's not that amazing. It does give you some value, but the fact that it's reliant on other skills to actually get the value out of her is a little bit of an annoyance. Then from Dudu, we go to 2 cards that activate once they're being discarded. And the first card that we have is this grade 1 Mazer Gear Dragon. And its ability is auto. When this card is discarded from your hand during your turn, cost Soul plus 1, choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards and retire it. So this, in my honest opinion, is a very bad card, and it's definitely a 1-star. Not only is this card reliant on other effects to be discarded, it then also needs to pay a cost of a Soul Blast to retire unit. And not only that, you need to retire a front row unit, meaning you cannot actually use this in a Chrono Fang build because you're already gonna retire the front row units for free. So what's the point of this skill? And sure, you can discard it with the main ability of your Pseudo Stride skill, but if you don't have the correct build or the correct field setup, this will not be enough to actually get the superior right off, so you need to discard another card. So you're not getting a lot of value of discard, and even if you could, it's still bad value. So yeah, definitely a 1-star card for me. Then a similar card that we have is this grade 2, which is Steam Fighter Shuttle, and its ability is auto. When discarded from your hand during your turn, costs Soul plus 1, and until the end of turn, your opponent cannot call grade 2 or greater cards from hand to the Guardian Circle. So this is again a really bad effect, because what's the point of just forcing your opponent to not be able to guard with grade 2s or greater? Those cards tend to be useless in guarding anyways because they're either 5k shield or 0 shield. Sure, I am aware we have Altmal with the super grade 2s, as they can be 10k shield from hand, and we have Dimension Police with the grade 3s being shield value. However, that's very super situational, and even in those particular situations, Altmal can still use the grade 2s on the field for intercept, as this doesn't block intercepting. And same with Dimension Police. They have their intercepting grade 3s that can just intercept, no problem if they want to do so. Only if they're from hand. And then again, they need to be sitting at the correct grade 3s in both decks to actually get the skill off. So for that, it's definitely a 1-star card. This is a really bad card. It's reliant on other skills. It's effect is really bad, and even in the case where it can be useful, it's so small that it's not making a dent in its active value of the card itself. Now with those cards out of the way, we actually finally are getting to some good food. Because now we're gonna get to Chronojet Dragon and the direct support card for Chronojet Dragon. As if these cards weren't in this set, Gear Chronicle got some really bad support for the Nextage. But luckily, they got these cards. As first off, we've got the main boy himself, Chronojet Dragon. And its abilities are active Vanguard Circle, cost, discard one or more cards with some of the grades being 3 or greater from your hand, search your deck for up to 1 grade 4 card, write at the stand, and shuffle your deck. At the end of the turn, retire that unit and write a grade 3 card from your soul as rest. So it has a superior ride skill, which is pretty obvious as it's gonna be a main grade 3 unit for Gear Chronicle. But then we get this unique ability, which is incredibly strong. As its second ability is Auto and Vanguard Dragon Circle. When it attacks, cost counter +1, and until the end of the battle, this unit gets power +5k, and your opponent cannot call sentinels from his or her hand. This is a skill that was referring to with the Isolate Lion, as it makes a good target to actually search out this grade 3, as it has a rearguard skill. So it can become a 18k attacker without any power calculation whatsoever that comes with the Sentinel Restrict. With a clan that can up the power to insane level and stack up multiple force markers in a couple of turns, this can be deadly. This can actually be really devastating. But you can ask yourself, what's the point of this unit actually having Vanguard skill, as you probably will always ride to a grade 4 with its main act Vanguard skill ability? Well, you're gonna see in a couple of seconds here why that's actually good. But just in general, Chronojet Dragon on its own is a definite 5-star card. This card has its own deck, which is pretty good. But this grade 3 can also be just slot in any other Gear Chronicle deck as a supporting grade 3. Because not only does it have the superior ride skill, so it can work together with Lost Legend Dragon, or it can work together with Chrono Fang Tiger, but you can also put this thing on the rearguard circle to actually pressure with the value generating from using all your grade 4s, getting all those multiple drive checks, getting a lot of power, because you can just potentially use this guard restrict in those decks as well. So this gives Gear Chronicle a lot of options, and most importantly, it gives them a good win condition. So from Chronojet, we go to some supporting cards, as we have also supporting grade 3, which we referenced before, also with the Isolate Lion example, as we have Steam Fighter Bali, and his abilities are Auto Vanguard Rearguard Circle. When placed, look at the 7 cards on the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 Chronojet Dragon from among them, and put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. If you did not put a card into your hand, this unit gets power +10k until the end of turn. So this, you can write it or call it, checks up 7, either get a Chronojet Dragon or it turns into 23k attacker. Either way, it's actually pretty solid. And if we combine it with the Isolate Lion, you can superior call this thing from the deck, then call it, then check top 7 and potentially get another +1 for free, or you get a good attacker. So overall, it's a pretty solid card. But once again, it's a grade 3. Grade 3 spots are scarce or are very important to not be flooded with unneeded cards. It saddens me the fact that this card probably will not be run in a good Chronojet Dragon build, because you probably don't have the space to actually facilitate this card. And it's also a little bit too slow, because the moment that you can call this thing or write this thing, that's actually the moment that you already want to have Chronojet Dragon. So for that, I can only give this card a 2-star rating. This card would have been incredible if it was a grade 2. If this thing was a grade 2 10k unit, this thing was amazing. But sadly, that's not the case. Then from Bali, we go to another Chronojet Dragon support card, as we have Smoke Gear Dragon. This grade 2 is insane and is one of those reasons what saves Gear Chronicle for this set, as its abilities are continuous Vanguard to Rearguard Circle. When it attacks a Vanguard, this unit gets power +5k. So right off the bat, it's always a 15k attacker. That's pretty good. But then, if you rode a grade 4, this turn cost Soul +1 and draw a card. This is actually a condition that we needed on the Stroboscope Dragon, because the Stroboscope Dragon says on attack, if your Vanguard is a grade 4, this just looks at if you rode a grade 4. So no matter if you grade 4 turns into grade 3 or whatever, it doesn't matter. You can use the skill Soul draw 1. Which is pretty good. That's a free +1, because Soul you don't really care all that much for. And what's also great it's a soulless draw on attack. So that's another grade 2, which works with Chrono Tiger Rebellion. So this works for Chrono Tiger Rebellion, which is pretty good, and it interacts with Chrono Dragon Nextage. But it's even better in the Chronojet Dragon build because of its second ability, which is Continuous Vanguard Circle. If your Vanguard is Chronojet Dragon, when you would discard a card from your hand, it may discard it as a grade 3. This is insane, because now, if this thing is on the field, no matter what you discard, you can use the Superior Ride effect of Chronojet Dragon. So if you're in a scenario where your hand is empty, but you have this thing on the field and your Vanguard is Chronojet Dragon, your top deck allows you to go into Chrono Dragon Nextage. But what this card also allows you to do is fulfill for other discard abilities. Like we've talked about with the grade 2 Steam Breaker that needs to discard a total of 3 grades to get additional 15k power. This card facilitates that by just discarding the card. So you can now discard, let's say, a Chrono Tooth Tigar, use ability, counter +1, draw a card, superior card to the field, and she gets another 15k power. Which is pretty good. Also, this card synergizes with Steam Fighter Memine, which was a grade 1 that once your Vanguard is ridden on the Vanguard circle, you can discard a card and draw a card, and if you discard a grade 3, you can give 3 units plus 5k power. This card allows you to get that 5k power on 3 units for whatever you discard, which is actually pretty good because you don't want to forcefully discard all your grade 3s, as you need them also to discard for your Vanguard to be able to superior ride. So this card basically eliminates all those issues, as you can just discard whatever you want and you get all those effects full power. So Smoky Dragon is definitely a 5-star card in my book, as it's an insane support card for Chronojet Dragon, it's an insane support card for Chrono Feng, and it's an insane support card for Gear Chronicle in general. So yeah, Smoky Dragon, excellent support card, which I'm really happy with that it's basically came out the way that it came out of this set. Then from Smoky Dragon we go to the final support card for this set, and that is the new VR, the grade 4 boss monster for this set, that is Chrono Dragon Nextage. And Nextage is one of those cards that saved this set, because this card is insane. It has one skill and one very simple skill, but oh my god, is this skill powerful, because it skills Auto Vanguard Circle. At the end of the battle that it attacked a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, if your soul has a Chronojet Dragon, cost discard 2 cards from your hand, retire this unit, write a Chronojet Dragon from your soul as stand, and until the end of the turn, this unit gets power plus 15k, and you cannot ride. So if your opponent is sitting on grade 3, you can go into this thing, you attack for 15k or maybe more if you stacked force markers underneath it, you get a Twin Drive, then you can discard that Twin Drive, you go back into Chronojet Dragon, that Chronojet Dragon Vanguard will become 28k without talking about force markers, because you ride him from soul again, you get another force marker, which you can stack onto the Vanguard circle if you want to. But also don't forget what we mentioned before, Chronojet Dragon has the Vanguard Vanguard Circle skill, on attack counter +1, gain an additional 5k, and the Sentinel Guard restrict. So that means if you use that skill, you first attack with this 15k Vanguard, and then go into a 33k Vanguard with again Twin Drive, so you have 4 drive checks in total, which will swing in for 33k and the Sentinel Guard restrict. And that's without even talking about force markers, because if we put both force markers on the Vanguard circle, that means Nextage will swing in for 25 with Twin Drive, and then Chronojet will swing in for 53 with Twin Drive and the Sentinel Guard restrict. And that's without calculating triggers, that's without calculating boosts, and it's without calculating any other power effect. And the reason why I explained just a bare bone effect of this is because this already sounds like insanely powerful. If we interact and combine other cards within this equation, then things are starting to get crazy. Because if we combine it with Smoky Dragon, it's super consistent to get this thing off, because we can discard whatever we want, and we get some pluses because Smoky Dragon allows us to plus out of this. But if we combine this with Steam Fighter Memine, we can give the Vanguard center column another 10k if there's a booster there, because once we ridden Chronojet Dragon again from the soul via Nextage, we can activate our skill, discard a card, thanks to Smoky Dragon, that's a grade 3. So we give our Chronojet Dragon an additional 5k, and the booster behind Chronojet Dragon another 5k. If we have another Memine on the field, we can do that again to increase the column again with 10k power. So these are the crazy things that you can do and set up with Nextage. So you might think to yourself, this is probably a 6-star card. Now, I've seen the comments in my videos that people were expecting me to give this card a 6-star rating. I would definitely give this card a 6-star rating. Was it not for just those 2 specific words? And those are the words of a grade 3. If this thing didn't look at the opponent's Vanguard and acquired it to be a grade 3 Vanguard, this card was an insane auto-include in the 6-star realm of Hall of Fame. Or Hall of Busted if you want to go that route. Because that meant you went first, you ride Chronojet Dragon, you go into Nextage, you actually attack with a 25k attack, twin drive on your opponent 10k or 9k, and then go into Chronojet Dragon 33k. But if it has a booster, you can also put all the triggers behind the booster to make that column even stronger. And your opponent basically had to took those 2 Vanguard swings, and as soon as you're probably gonna run 8 to 12 crits, it's very likely that they will die on that attack. So because that has the condition that your opponent needs to be grade 3, I can only give this one a 5-star rating because it's super strong, but it's fair. It's fair, strong card. That's what it is. It's a fair, strong card. And it pains me to say that, like, the next set, this thing got power crept. Like, why is the cross a thing? But we're going a bit ahead of ourselves. We're still in the Nextage set. So basically, Chronojet Dragon Nextage is for me an obvious 5-star card. This thing is insanely powerful and allows Gear Chronicle to have a very powerful engine. The crazy thing about this is that you can basically run 1, maybe 2 Nextage and 2 copies of Chronojet in whatever Gear Chronicle deck. You don't lower the consistency of the deck, because you can still go into Nextage as a grade 4, you can still ride Chronojet Dragon as a grade 3 as it does a superior ride, whatever you want to do, and you still have this engine in whatever deck you're playing. If you go the Bind playstyle or you want to go the Discard playstyle, you can still have this as a second option or a second way out, because it's that splashable, which is actually pretty interesting and it opens up a lot of options. And what's the crazy part about Chrono Dragon Nextage itself is that you can write this card from hand. All the other grade 4s, when you write them from hand, you're stuck on that grade 4 for the rest of the game. Nextage, you don't care. Because Nextage you can write it as long as you have a Chronojet Dragon in your soul. Or if we ever get cards that allows the soul charge specific cards into the soul, if we manage to get a Chronojet Dragon into the soul, the moment we attack with it, we can revert back to a grade 3. And with that said, we talked about all the support cards. As stated at the beginning of the video, a lot of the support cards weren't really that great. We did get some staple cards like the new Sentinel crit trigger, we got the grade 3 Searcher, we got Chronojet Dragon, which we were waiting for the longest of time. Smoky Dragon is an insane support card. Chrono Dragon Nextage is an insane grade 4 superior restander, which is pretty damn good. And we also got some interesting pieces, and also a lot of the older support got a lot better, like we have Mamene, and a card that I haven't been talking about in this video, but I have talked about in my Road to Nextage video like Endless of Time, that is Team Skara Kalane, that allows you to have another guard restrict onto whatever attack it's boosting, that your opponent can only guard with maximum of 3 cards. That combined with a 60-70k Vanguard or rearguard swing that forces your opponent to not be able to Sentinel can be devastating. Because if they don't have free heal triggers, or you can go above the power range of free heal triggers, they cannot even guard the attack. So there's a lot of interesting things this set allows to do, especially the Chronojet Dragon set and archetype. So even though the main of the bulk support cards were pretty bad, I think we cannot actually complain all that much, because the good support card that we got was really damn good. And with that said, we basically come to the end of the video. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this new support for Gear Chronicle. Were you already up to date with all the information because you were following my Road to Nextage series, where I went deep diving in every single reveal all the way up from the beginning of 2020 to Nextage being revealed, as well as the new Strides? Or were you surprised with the cards that we got, and maybe even surprised with the rating that I gave these cards in general, as I'm definitely really harsh with the Gear Chronicle cards, as I expect them to be on the top quality. So I don't want to give favoritism to just say, oh, it's a Gear Chronicle card, it's a 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. No. We're gonna be very, very judgmental about Gear Chronicle cards on this channel. So let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. And as always, guys, this video has been brought to you by lovely patrons over at patreon.com/Vanguard Insider. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, you can simply do that by going over to patreon.com/Vanguard Insider and become a Patreon today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one.